changed. I mean, why was this such a gut-wrenching and a heartbreaking loss? You lost to a team that's going to probably be in the playoffs. Did you think about firing him when you lost to the Saints? That's a playoff team. What about the Packers, Skip? Did Jerry think about firing him after they lost to the Packers? Okay, what about the Vikes? Oh, no. Because this is what we see and what we've seen from the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. Teams that are playoff bound or look to be playoff bound, they lose to. Teams that's nowhere close to making the playoffs, they win. So I'm trying to figure out, why was Jerry so heartbroken? You know why? Because he rides the emotional roller coaster like a fan does. They open the season 3-0, Super Bowl bound. I can tell you now, I've been around some teams, and this team has as much talent. That's what he said. Skip was like, woo! Woo! Yep. We got a Super Bowl, Miami. Here we come. Yep. Undisputed will be there, right there on that field.
Can't wait.
You said all that. Now
we'll be there. I don't know if the Cowboys are going to be there.
Now all of a sudden, Skip, you're 6-5. Huh? Oh, you got all this plus minus differential, points scored, points allowed. You got the quarterback with QBR and passing yard, yada, yada, yada. And you're 6-5. That's what you are. And Jerry had all these it's all Jerry's fault.
Yeah.
Because, look, if you're a player in that locker room, if you've been around the game of football for an extended period of time, you understand that winning in the NFL is hard. But it's only Jerry Jones and the delusional Cowboys fans that actually think every year they're going to and win the Super Bowl, especially after they win a few games. Woo, we Super Bowl bound. Hey, eat it, Shannon Sharp, eat it. Cowboys going to the Super Bowl. How you like that? I love it, because I'll be there, but you won't. Cowboys going to the Super Bowl, Skip. They are, but not without a ticket. So I don't know what to tell you. He's not firing Jason Garrett, Skip, because you know why? Even if they lose to Buffalo and the Eagles win, they're still in first place in the division. By what? They beat the Eagles head-to-head. I do not believe he's going to fire Jason Garrett, because he should have fired him at the beginning. He should have fired him once he stepped to that podium, Skip, at the combine. And he says, I am not going to extend Jason Garrett. And owners do a lot. They always try not to make their coach a lame duck. They normally give him one extra year, even if they do fire him after the year, because they don't want him to be a lame duck. That's what Jason Garrett was. Jason Garrett was, from the moment Jerry uttered those words, I'm not extending Jason Garrett, he was coaching for his job. He was on the hot seat. You know that. Everybody knows that. The seat has maybe gotten hotter, but he's not firing him. That's his guy. That's his guy. Besides, who else is going to let him have control to come in there and go and come if he please and talk to whoever he want to? Nobody but Jason. So he ain't going nowhere. I know as much to your chagrin, I know you hate that. You want him up out of there, but he's not. Red State. Fight for your job, Red.
Players sure aren't going to fight.
No, don't worry about all that. There you go.
Okay, as usual, you got your facts right, but your conclusion is dead wrong. You have missed the point, missed the boat, missed the bottom line. I have talked about Jason Garrett so long on national television, I've reached Jason Garrett burnout. I have wrestled with him. I have tried to cope with him for so long. I am mentally and physically drained from Jason Garrett syndrome. I covered Jason Garrett when he was the backup quarterback to Troy Aikman. I feel like I know him fairly well. I know what he is, and I know, more important, what he is not. Just for the record, this is not new to me. You're using 20/20 hindsight. I was ahead of this curve because I watched Jason Garrett attempt to head coach this team for 2 years, and they were long years. And I'm talking about 2011 and 2012. We're going way back into the dark ages.
Oh, you're talking about the 500.
Yeah, and I'm talking about 8-8 and 8-8, which ultimately was followed by 8-8. 8-8, 8-8, 8-8, 8-8, 8-8. On my old show on ESPN, all I ever heard was 8-8. But after 2 8-8s and a little brief tenure following Wade Phillips, who got fired at 1-7, this is going all the way back to 2010. So Jason took over and went 5-3 as the interim head coach. Then he was named the full head coach. Right. So you can give him 3 8-8s plus a 5-3 was his first sort of 3.5 years. Okay. But after 2 of those 8-8s, I hammered the table and I said, that's enough. I know him and I know he's not a head coach. He is the classic case of a much better coordinator than a head coach. He was born to be a coordinator. I think he has pretty good offensive wheels turning. But once you become the head coach, you don't have any control really over that part of the football team as far as hands-on control.
Unless you're going to call the plays like Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay.
For a while, he has tried that. But I still say he's watered down as a head coach. And I still say I took a stand following the 2012 season and said, that's enough. Got to cut bait. But then I was slowly forced to make peace with the fact that Jerry had fallen head over heels for Jason Garrett to the point that he became like a third son to Jerry Jones. And I know Jason, and he is pleasant to be around. He is very personable, but it's surfacey personable. He's fun to be around, drinking beer and having nachos, as long as the conversation stays up on the surface. But if you try to go deeper with him, if you try to look for a deeper connection, you can't find one because there's no there. He doesn't have the kind of dynamic personality that equates to leadership. He's not a commanding officer. He strikes no fear in a football team. So I've had to live with him, and he's been, you could argue, the luckiest head coach in NFL history, because every once in a while, like every other year, especially following the 3-8-8s, talent carried him to a successful year. So when 2014 happened, what happened in 2014? DeMarco Murray led the NFL in rushing.
He was Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, and he had his one peak season that was not followed by another one, right? He basically died for the cause, quote unquote. He gave his body to the cause because he was never quite the same after that. But Jason got taken for a nice ride because the Romo to Des Bryant connection was at its extraordinary peak. They had a soul connection. They had a rapport. They had a wavelength on the field in which Tony could just say, I see 88, I throw it up for 88, and he'll go up and snatch it. How many times did Tony just throw jump balls to Des Bryant that turned into 40-yard gains? It was magical, and they went on a magic carpet ride through 2014, and they won a playoff game by hook or crook because they got a call they shouldn't have gotten against Detroit.
You finally admit that, huh?
Yeah, but then they lost a playoff game at Lambeau by crook because it got stolen from them because Dez caught it.
No, he didn't, Skip.
And they should have been at Seattle for an NFC Championship game in a stadium in which they had beaten Seattle in the regular season. I would have given them a good shot to win that game. But the point was they didn't, because Jason's one of those guys who can get you just so close and then can't get you over the hump. So then 2017 was a disaster in large part because of the injuries and obviously the Zeke suspension. Then 2018 happened. I'm sorry, I missed 2016. That was another one, another turnaround year.
13-3.
Yeah. And what happened? Out of heaven, Dak Prescott fell into their lap.
And Zeke.
And they were extraordinary as rookies. They both had huge plays, game after game after game. Dak made big plays. Zeke made big plays. And it carried them. The momentum of those two kids playing way above their maturity level led them to a playoff game in which they fell woefully behind, thanks to Jason Garrett not motivating his football team. And they were down, 28-3 in that? No, 21-3 in that game. And they came back to 31-all and lost 34-31. The point was, every other year, the talent has carried Jason Garrett. And again, he won't get in the way of great talent, which is great. He has little to no ego. But when the talent doesn't start making the plays that win the games, see this year, he can't fix it. He can't re-motivate it, because what have we seen this year? We've seen them fall behind out of the gate 8 of 11 times. That's on the head coach. And yet the head coach, he speaks in platitudes. He speaks in cliches. If you watched any part of that documentary that they did in 2017 for Amazon, All or Nothing, they showed long meetings, it just went on forever, in which Jason just talked to the whole group in the big meeting theater. And you could see the guys, and they're losing train of thought, and they're looking this way and they're looking that way because they just tune out Jason Garrett. Again, a nice guy who can finish last, as the old cliche goes, because he can't do anything to fix a situation that is starting to teeter and go south. So now I'm back to Mike Florio, and I do respect his insight into this, and I'm sure he's heard from his sources, that Jerry is on the verge. And what did I tell you yesterday after I heard Jerry's remarks on his radio show? We did it right off the top of the show after Jerry had spoken on his, we reacted immediately. That was different. That was angry Jerry. What this team knows is its owner has a big temper, and it's close to being lost. And when he loses his temper, see Jimmy Johnson back in 1993 after the 93 season, he is capable of firing somebody at the drop of a ref's hanky. You know, like it can just go boom, where he just goes quickly. He's got one of those tempers. It's a runaway temper you cannot stop. And Mike Florio knows that the Jerry we saw right after the game in New England, that's scary Jerry.